The headline in the local paper the other day read, "Scuba diver stranded in the waters off St. Thomas here in the U.S. Virgin Islands." It's a diver's absolute worst nightmare to be left out there alone at sea. Hey guys, my name's Jeff, and after 30 years of diving, this has actually happened to me once as well. Luckily, it was a short amount of time, but I've also been on the other side of this equation and part of search and rescue efforts to locate missing divers and missing people in the water. And I gotta tell you, it's hard to find a person in the water. So in this video, we're gonna talk about the story of what happened to the diver out there in St. Thomas, as best we can tell from the article in the paper, which I will link to below. But we're also gonna talk about some of the safety equipment that you as a diver can bring along with you, and what I bring with me to help accelerate a rescue should everything go absolutely sideways on you while you're out in the water. So the story of the stranded diver, at least as I understand it here, is there were two private sailboats that were anchored or moored off of the east end of St. Thomas on a small key. Four people decided to gear up and get in the water and go scuba diving, I believe down to a depth of about 100 feet. When the dive ended, three people came back up to the surface and they were missing one gentleman in his 60s out there. So the crew of the sailboat set off in their dinghies to conduct a search looking for him. More on that in a second. Now, if you're out there floating around like this poor gentleman was, you want to have a few things with you. Now, most notably and most common is to have a surface marker buoy with you. So a surface marker buoy is essentially just an orange or yellow, green, pink, there are all kinds of colors, inflatable buoy that you as a diver can carry with you. And I definitely recommend everyone dives with one of these all of the time. Now, there's a few aspects of these you may not have actually considered when bringing these with you. Obviously, you can inflate it and then the bright color stands out on the blue background here, and it's a lot easier for a boat or a helicopter to spot you. But there are some things you can do to aid in that as well. The first thing is, obviously, we can actually inflate it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So once we've got it inflated here, the color certainly stands out against the blue background and creates a much better target to find here on the water. But it can also, floating around here, but it can also assist us in other ways. We can actually connect, if I can hold the float here, we can actually connect both ends together and turn it into essentially a nice little float for us. The other thing that we can do is add a light onto the end. This really helps at night, of course. So I've clipped on here a nice little white tiny flashing light that I can turn on after dark. It makes it a lot easier to see at night. But during the day, this can just really help me float up here as well. So many surface marker buoys also come with some reflective tape here up on the top. It's definitely worth a little extra money to get one that has this. So the other thing that I carry with me is a torch. This one has 3 different power settings to it, as well as an SOS feature where it'll flash SOS in Morse code, which is great at night and certainly a lot easier to spot that flashing light, similar to the one at the end of the surface marker buoy that you can add. Now, the other thing that you can do with your torch in combination with a surface marker buoy is point the torch up the length of the surface marker buoy, essentially turning the whole buoy into a giant glow stick. It's an incredible pairing. So I'm not real sure what safety equipment the diver out there in St. Thomas had with them at the time. Hopefully he had a surface marker buoy and maybe even a flashlight, which could, again, in combination, really assist him. Now, the search went on for an hour and a half with the 2 dinghies looking for the missing diver before they actually radioed the Coast Guard over Channel 16 to lend additional assistance. Now, as a recommendation, that's just a bit too long. So we know our bottom time and our gas supply. We know roughly how long that dive should last and at what point that diver is going to run out of air. So, factor that into the search equation. If you start your own search, which is a fantastic thing to do, get out there immediately and take a look for that diver, but don't wait an hour and a half before calling for additional help. Get help a lot sooner. The quicker you can get out there and get additional help searching, the more eyes, the better. So one of the other things that I will carry with me as well is actually something that a lot of divers I don't think really think of. It is a signal mirror. A lot of hikers will carry these, but not a lot of divers. This is a really cheap but extremely effective way of signaling your position should you be floating out there in the big ocean or wherever, honestly. So this is really easy to use. On one end, it's got a reflective surface, and on the other side, it's got the instructions on how to use it. So essentially what I'm going to do is just place the back of the mirror here. There is a hole right here in the center, and I'm going to point that at the sun and then cast the reflective light onto my hand just to get orientated with where it's at. All right, once I have that reflective light, then I can move it up to my target and just kind of flash up and down, or better yet, if you're out on the water, side to side. This is where you can really get some boats' attention if they're out there on the horizon. Even if you cannot see a boat out there on the horizon, doesn't mean they're not there. So every now and again, it is a great idea. And I lost my sun. There it is. It is a great idea just to shine this back and forth to get the attention of any vessels that might be out there. Definitely worth tossing one of these into your BCD. So again, the diver out there in St. Thomas that was stranded out on the water, there was an hour-and-a-half search conducted by the two dinghies of the sailboats that he was on for him before they called the Coast Guard. And then they got the Coast Guard involved. They launched a helicopter from Puerto Rico and a small boat from St. Thomas to aid in that search. Now, when they started the search with those two additional assets, the first thing they had to do was determine the set and the drift there in that particular area. Basically, the speed of the current and the direction of the current to help determine where the diver was drifting. Now, they'll drop a buoy from the helicopter to help determine that, and that's what they did in this case, and it really helped with the search. Over the course of that hour and a half, and then with the additional search time, it turned out the diver had drifted actually about 2 miles to the north from his original position where they were diving at. So that is a large area to certainly search for. So one of the other things that I carry with me, and this is by no means sponsored by Garmin, but I absolutely love this little thing. This is the Garmin Inreach Mini, and it comes with a separate dive housing. So I can take it with me underwater. Now, the Inreach Mini will use the satellite Iridium network and allows me to do multiple things. One, I can do two-way texting, so I can both send and receive text messages using this, which is nice. I can also set it up, and I have, to send my position information to a website that I could share with my family and friends, and even you guys, on where I'm at any given time and where I'm diving, and it will map it out. But the best feature is the SOS button on the side. If I press this, it will send my Latin long and an SOS message to a call center, which will then alert search and rescue, so that I can initiate the search myself as a diver out there on the ocean, which is certainly much better, because now I'm not out there waiting for somebody to find me whenever and wherever I'm drifting, but rather I'm out there saying, hey, this is exactly where I'm at. Please come get me. Please. I'm going to try not to get lost like this, but if I push the button, please come get me. I know they will, but as a diver, it gives me a lot more peace of mind to have this little piece of electronic with me. But circling back to our diver, the Coast Guard helicopter eventually did locate the diver. He had been in the water for, again, about 4 hours and drifted 2 miles from his original position to the north. They hovered over him for a period of time while the small boat located him and then brought him on board. Now, once they got him on board, he declined medical attention, so he was doing fine, which is fantastic after that amount of time in the water. I'm sure he was a little tired, a little weak, and probably a little frazzled. It's an experience that nobody wants to go through, being lost at sea. But nonetheless, he was physically okay, and he was returned back to his sailboat, and they went on their way. So that story has a very happy ending to it. So I am headed out to a dive site known as the Swirling Reef of Death here on the west end of St. Croix today. And guys, if you haven't seen our video yet on diving the Swirling Reef of Death and its origin story, definitely check that out next. It is a fun story. But thanks for watching. Stay safe while diving. Hopefully you find some of this information very helpful to you for the next time you're in the water. But we'll see you